Okay, so everybody, let's just get settled, get centered, settle down in your body, into your seat, wherever you are. Just plant your feet. Allow yourself to be present. As we call in the divine to encircle us, to be with us, to move energy, to clear and to protect. I call on Archangel Raphael in at the east, seeing that energy coming in as green flame, seeing his symbol as the caduceus, coming in to hold our energy, holding our space, seeing that green energy filling your energy center straight up through the middle. And then calling in Archangel Michael from the south, seeing him come in with his blue sword of truth and of light, seeing him as blue flame energy coming in and aiding and allowing his energy to come into your field, bringing in protection, sealing our energy, adding that awareness of protection to your space. Then to the west, calling in Archangel Gabriel, Archangel of Water, coming in, seeing this angel energy come in associated with the chalice, seeing the white flame, glittery diamond, white light energy of Archangel Gabriel, holding your space, sealing your energy field. And from the north, Archangel Uriel coming in with the red, ruby, violet flame there, sealing your energy with that light, seeing the symbol of Archangel Uriel as a golden pentacle surrounded with white light. Knowing that all four corners of the horizontal plane are sealed and protected with beautiful angelic light. And calling in Archangel Sandalphon from the earth plane, coming up to hold the earth grid of the 5D resonant field, anchoring that up through your earth star chakra, radiating upwards, up through and anchoring into the heart space. And calling in from the vertical plane above, from the central sun, from source light energy, Archangel Metatron, descending down the Christ consciousness grid as it comes down upon the ceiling of your room that you're in, descending down upon you like golden white light, descending down into your crown, through your third eye, into your throat chakra, and into your heart, anchoring in. And then feeling and knowing that you are divinely encased in beautiful angelic light on all sides, above and below. Knowing that as all things are as they should be, we are encased in the light of love, the light of truth, and the light of protection as we are grounded and centered in this space. And so it is. Hello, my lovely souls. How are you today?
Yeah.
So, I know for me, one thing I wanted to talk about today, which is really interesting because this came to me as a dream last night. And I thought, what perfect timing, because I'm going to have to talk about this today. Because I woke up with such a deep emotional feeling within me. It woke me from sleep. Like I woke up and couldn't go back to sleep at like 4 o'clock this morning. So it's interesting as we're moving through this time that we are being forced to look at shadow within, being forced to look at things within ourselves that we've either repressed or haven't integrated or haven't allowed to come forward, the things that we've made ourselves wrong for, right? A lot of times, I know for myself, I would maybe look at it briefly and then put it away because it was too painful, or I didn't want to see it, or I didn't want to acknowledge something about myself. Maybe that was something that I did that I felt wrong for. So interestingly, I had a dream last night that I was with one of my earliest boyfriends. He was somebody, like my first love. We dated for like probably 3 years. Like my last year of high school, we went to prom together. My last year of high school, my first 2 years of college, we dated. His name was Chip. Chip Taylor, golfer. Chip Taylor.
Chip.
Yeah, he was a golfer. He was a golf pro. Hit Taylor.
Of course
Like
he
such a
would.
golfer. I know.
This is so Tonya. This is so Tonya. She made a chip.
Listen, I know. I know. And it's so funny because I've talked about him and my husband's like, okay, Buffy at the country club. I'm like, yes, that's the environment I grew up in. I know it's very cliche, but yes, it's a little bubble.
I love it.
Anyway,
So get back to Chip.
get back to Chip. I was so in love with Chip. Like I was like, my little sorority self was all like living in like, we're gonna get married. He's the one. You know, all these things. And it's interesting that Chip, like the emotion was there, right? Like all the excitement of like having that relationship. But what was really interesting about the dream, because it's so interesting to me anyway that it was about Chip anyway, not my husband. But what came into the dream was my children. And not to be too graphic with what was going on in the dream, but Chip and I were in bed together.
Yeah.
And like having a little foreplay, shall we say. And I look over, and in the bed is my son. And he was probably 6 or 7 at the time, my oldest son. So I see him around the age of 6 or 7 in the bed. And immediately I was like, oh, you know, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You know, you can't be here. And immediately this feeling came around like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like my child is here. And it kind of woke me up because I immediately felt all this shame. And what happened as I woke up and I sat there for a second and this shame was flooding through me, like really like visceral, like I could feel it. And I sat there for a second and I like laying there and I tried to start to meditate. I tried to start to clear it. I tried to fall asleep. And I'm like, I can't, I gotta wake up. I gotta get up. There's something here, like something here I need to look at. And so I sat up for a second and as I'm sitting with this, I'm like, huh, I know what this is about. I hold a lot of mom guilt, mom shame and guilt, because I spent so much of, as I try not to get emotional,
Yeah,
yet again,
I feel you.
2 weeks in a row, I have so much guilt over not being present when they were little, being wrapped up in myself. Even after I got my divorce, my kids were young. My youngest was 4. My oldest was 8, right around the time I saw my son in the dream. And I was really wrapped up in Christopher, my current husband, because when I met him, I knew he was my soulmate. But there was also a sense of, at that time, I was like, oh, I'm free. I'm free from my marriage. I'm free, like my life is my own. I'm not living for other people. So I really indulged in that, I think, in my own self, in that self, I don't know, selfishness in a sense, in a way. And I look back at that time from when my kids were little and the time that I was working all the time, I was gone all the time. And then to go from that to having the divorce to being wrapped up in my relationship with Chris for about a year after that, I find myself looking back and saying, gosh, how present was I with my kids? Like, I feel like I missed so much of them growing up because I was working. I was the breadwinner. I was working 6 14-hour shifts a week because my ex-husband was staying home with them. So I feel so much guilt. And even now, looking back, a lot of shame around the fact that I feel that, you know, I should have been there more. You know, I shouldn't have been so self-absorbed. And I mean, a lot of this time I was going through stuff with my addiction and, you know, and I can rationalize that saying, of course I was self-absorbed. I was active in my addiction back then when I was married before. And, you know, the addiction is all about being in the self anyway. So of course, but it doesn't make it right. Right. I can explain it, you know, but that feeling has really, it's been there for a long time, but I've never really wanted to look at it. you know, because it hurts so bad. It really hurts. So look, back, and my children aren't perfect. Like, they're adults. Like, my oldest is 23. My youngest just turned 19. Those are times I can't get back, right? So I can sit here and tell myself, they chose this life. They knew what they were getting into. It's all soul contracts. We agreed to all this. But it doesn't make me feel any better as a mom, you know? Because, like, looking back and realizing that I could have done better, right? You know, so there's that shoulda, coulda that comes up too, you know? And this is all just shit, you know? It's all stuff that, you know, if I allow myself to sit in how I feel, I'm like, okay, the shame comes. I have dreams like this all the time that like implicate like what I'm holding on to, right? And it's so interesting because I've been really paying attention to my dreams lately. But the stuff that comes up is shame, like shame. There's shame in the stuff with my kids, and that particularly was what came up from dream last night. But there's shame around like the addiction stuff. There's shame that comes up, and I'll dream about it, and I'll dream and I'll have that visceral feeling of shame. And it's like, this isn't serving me, but what is it? But at the same time, I'm like, okay, I need to not push this away, which has been my MO, right? I need to not push it away, sit with it, allow myself to have this experience, but then look at it from the perspective of not making myself wrong, which is what I always have done, right? I've always been like, I should have done better. I could have done better. I'm so bad, I'm so this, and all the ego stuff, right, that comes in with the you are a piece of shit. Whereas now it could be like, okay, so where can I find the lesson? Where can I find the lesson from all this? What am I meant to learn from all of this? What am I meant to learn from this experience and this emotion? And what is this teaching me? And then where is the potential gift in all of this, right? And ultimately, that's where I want to keep the focus. So I know, Colleen, you don't have kids, but I know, Brooke, you have kids. So I'm sure somewhere along the way you can resonate with a little bit of what I said. But I would love to know what your experience has been of shame and what you feel about that and how you've moved through, what your thoughts are on where you're going with, you know, integrating any lessons and stuff, and what I don't know, just kind of what your experience has been.
I love this. And I love you, and I'm so proud of you.
I'm like,
shame has fucked us over since the moment you took in utero, for real, because we're born into sin, which is okay. So obviously your shame has served you because it really feels good to, like, you're noble because you feel shameful because of this. And if we let go of shame, then maybe that would mean what we did was okay. And so we hold onto it. And so this is what I see with weight as well, like how much shame people, like male, female, how much shame is being carried around in these physical vehicles, because it does serve us. Do you know how easy it is to be like, I don't want to go to my kid's thing, and I feel really bad, and I feel guilty, and I feel shameful. So that means I'm a good person. And right? But you know, without recognizing where it is serving us and where it's being the easiest cop out, because if we felt that shame, then if we didn't feel the shame, who would we be? Who would you be if you didn't feel that shame? Your identity would be
yeah. Yeah, because seriously, because it's almost like if you're not, then you're not living by the rules, right? If you're not living by the rules, because if you don't feel how can I put this into words? If you don't feel a certain way because of actions that you've done or not done, what does that say about who you are, right? Does that mean you're a piece of shit? So what does that say about you if you're not like following the rules that society has in place for particularly women and moms? You know, if you don't have that guilt and shame as a parent, that means, okay, you're right. I mean, what does that say about your identity, about who you are as just as a human being living here, you know, in society, right? No, Colleen, what do you think? You've been quiet over there.
Well, I'm apparently floating in the galactics now. Never mind in fucking Mother Earth energy any longer. Like I went all the way up. So remember how I said to you guys that I was interviewing Aurora, who is a collective of energies that dropped in as a galactic walk-in into a body. I did this podcast interview last week. It won't go out till the end of the month. And I was just remembering how she, like literally while you guys were conversing, well, she said to me, she said, I dropped in to this body in 2020, like 2001. And realizing that the earth holds a pattern of trauma. So it's a vibration on the earth, which we know this to be true. So when we birth into this earth, we take on the pattern of trauma automatically by coming onto the earth experience. So not surprising that we hold these emotions like shame and guilt and suffering. And, you know, I did a lot of work in suffering over the last 36 hours. Of understanding it for me, because remember last week how I said to you guys, I was like, I don't know if I've ever suffered, and it was like, oh, you want to feel this? We'll show you all the times that you did. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you for that. So love it. I so appreciate this. But in connection with this energy, Tonya, just to speak to it from a high level, you were given this gift, and we call it a gift because of the fact that we can transmute it and step in it and take the resources from the gift. So when I say to you about holding shame, and when you hold it, do you still need to hold it in the potency of it being a detriment in your life now, or can you transmute it into a gift to actually now look at it from, I only knew what I knew then, and that's all you knew. And now you have all these new tools and keys that you've discovered about yourself, that you've moved through, that you've remembered in the potency of who you are, to be able to step through that and look at it going, I only knew what I knew. You couldn't have changed anything, because you only knew what you knew, like really. And so when we look at that, and I know that it's easy logically to think about it, that we have to now go through the emotional stuff and really pull it at the root and find out, but why do you feel like you need to suffer still in this perspective? And why are you keeping this pattern moving through your field now and holding on to it so tight that you're refusing to let it go? What story's behind it that's really, really at the root of this is my question for you.
Yeah, well, it's like I know all that stuff you just told me.
I know you do.
I know
you do. And I know it all too. But like sometimes we need someone to smack us.
No, I know. And here's the thing. It's interesting because I thought I had, but really the dream is coming up to remind me, obviously I haven't.
Yeah.
Like not all of it, right? Otherwise I wouldn't have had the dream.
Yeah. Or you would have saw it from a different perspective and not going into the emotion of it. You would have been,
yes. Right. Yeah, and I would have been stuck in that emotion when I woke up.
Yeah.
So I know what it is. Like I know there's part of me in my, and I'm sure this is all in my ego, that's telling me that, again, like Brooke, like it's part of your identity. Like Brooke's like, if you're not, like you should, even to be able to transmute the shame, to be able to use it otherwise in either in my work or just in having better relationships with my family. I think that part that was hanging on, or you know, still I'm sure I still have work to do around this, is really just it's rooted in perfectionism and performance. You know, it's like you need to be, and this all comes from my experience growing up, right? That I need to be a certain way. I need to be perfect. I need to be, you know, this idealized image. And when I make mistakes were never acceptable, right? So this is me making mistakes that aren't acceptable. So you should on yourself, right? I should have done this. I should have done that. You know, I know better. And then the blaming, it's almost like a form of self-punishment, right? It's punishing myself for And I used to do this, and I used to do this in my eating disorder too. I would punish myself, physically punish myself. Like I would make myself run on broken bones. I would make myself sleep for 2 hours and get up and work out for 4. You know, I would punish myself. I didn't realize that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
You know, because I was sick, right? But I would punish myself. And this is just another form of self-punishment. Is really what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I so appreciate you working this out like here because I think it's so important. Yeah. Like we're always coming in with this and why like Brooke was like, I think we need to create this. And I'm like, yeah, like and stepping into this because it's this real talk. It's actually going into this together as a collective, the three of us to serve humanity in some way, shape or form by talking about the shit we're working through and our shadows and triggers in its real raw form. Like, and so like literally for those watching and listening to this, like we're working this out in real time. Like this is an actual real time session. Yeah. Like, this wasn't planned. Like you know, like no script, you know, like we're like,
this is not an example.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So why do you feel like you have to keep suffering, Tonya? Why can't, like, where is that in the mechanism?
The eternal question. Are you done suffering yet? My very first spiritual coach used to ask me that all the time when I first started unpacking my unworthiness.
Yeah.
She used to ask me, she's like, are you done suffering? Are you done?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, of course I'm done. And she goes, well, not really, because if you were, you'd be done. She goes, you would be done.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I don't know what you mean.
Yeah.
There is this part of my inner psyche and my ego and subconscious, I feel that still has that self-punishment thing. And it's almost like, I don't know, and I probably have to unpack this a little bit more and do some more journaling around this myself and maybe some meditation, but it's like, I almost feel that, you know, I could tell you for sure, straight up, do I want to be done suffering? Hell yes, of course I do.
Yeah.
You know, but there's that part, there's like a deep, like I could almost feel like a little kernel seed, like deep in my subconscious that is saying, but you still feel like you need to be punished for this.
Yeah.
Right. And it's tied to belief. It's tied to ancestral belief. It's tied to my family line of shame and guilt and punishment and the perfectionism. And I know it's in there. I know it's generational. But it's like I'm getting the visual of it, like the clairvoyant visual of the seed of like darkness in my family DNA that's like twisted in there. And it's like coiled in like almost like a splinter. You know?
I see it.
And it's like stuck in there.
Yeah.
But, and even now as I say that, my spirit is saying to me, and it's your job to pull it out.
I was about to say, like, we're healing the ancestral line in this lifetime.
Oh, yeah,
all
absolutely.
of us doing this
Ooh,
work. Everybody. Like, everyone in our fields, everyone in that we're connected to, like the experience I went through on Saturday, everybody in that room is healing their ancestral lines. And I don't know who these people are in my yard right now. So
I was like,
I'm just trying to hold space for these people that are going through my yard as here doing this. I'm like, I don't know who they are. Okay, whatever. But yeah, like we are literally healing our ancestral lineage. And yeah, it's like having the guts to get to the root of it, having the guts to be able to step into this, to be able to maneuver it forward. I don't think these people actually know that this is private property, but whatever. I can't do anything about it right now. Yeah, you know. So
they're tapping into the energy.
Yeah. Brooke, any comments to that? I can definitely spin from Tonya's conversation, but I would love to hear from you.
Perfect. Yeah. For one, like, imagine you going and having to hold that in, that dream, this experience, and then just going about your life. And even though you're here and you want to heal and you like, now that you express that, now that it's been out, you're outed, like that's the transmutation process. And to think sometimes like, oh, well, we got to do something about it. Like, you just did it. Now we get to move through it on this physical plane. What does that look like? Who knows? You know, maybe that's bawling. Maybe that's being of service of something, or just feeling the shame in the moment or something like that. But you're going to go into this, Colleen, and when I close out, you guys are just going to be like, holy shit, she had this plan.
Nothing surprises me anymore, Brooke.
That doesn't surprise me either.
Yeah, ever. Oh my gosh.
Beautiful.
Well, you know what's so interesting is like, you know, the work that we've done and the knowledge that we have as this human in this experience. And we think we've gotten somewhere, you know, like we think we move through some things, you know, like we go into this. So for those that don't know, and most of you probably don't, I literally dropped into an ayahuasca, my first ever plant medicine experience, Saturday night around 10 p.m. Right now we're recording this at Monday around 10 a.m. So it's been 36 hours since I dropped in, came all the way out in the early parts of the morning at like 5:30. The sun rose was when we came out of ceremony yesterday, and literally in integration. I've never done ayahuasca before. I didn't do any research on ayahuasca. I was called to the medicine not having any idea. But every single person that said to me, it's so beautiful, oh my God, I met her, and I met the jaguar, and I did all these, I was like, fuck, I'm gonna go have an experience, I'm gonna go hang out with my ancestors. No. Here's what Colleen did, was fucking rolled up in a ball and fucking shadow work in the depths of the darkness of my soul for like half the night, going, what the fuck did I sign up for? I can't believe I'm fucking here. Like, get me out of this. Can I just offer, because they call it like throwing up offering, can I just fucking offer this all out so I can get this out of my body? And obviously this was part of the process that needed to happen to move through, because there was some deep-rooted shit that I hadn't been looking at and I'd been avoiding. And a lot of the stuff came up through where I suffered in life and pushed it down, but also how I'm a fucking raging ass bitch and how I judge so many fucking people. So I'm in the middle of this like experience, like literally I can barely walk, but I kept trying to let go. Like my body wanted to release, but I couldn't let it go. It wouldn't come out in any of these ways. And I just kept judging everybody. I was like, look at that fucking guy dancing. Like, who the fuck does he think he is? Or like, I can't believe these people are walking here on the earth and getting their feet dirty and they're not fucking paying attention to other people. Or how can these people go to the bathroom in this dry toilet, meaning an outhouse, in the middle of this eco-friendly village? And I'm like, what the fuck is this place? You know, like this is what's happening in the middle of this experience in my mind. And I realized that I had dropped in, and all the times I was ever selfish, and I led in that selfish, even though I was like, it's for the collective, and that person needed to hear it this way, and you know, like all this bullshit that I kept fucking saying out into the world, and it came, all of it came up, and I was literally, like, I saw the image of myself, and in twofold, and we can take it both ways, crawling out of the darkness, covered in fucking black tar, like crawling out. So it was like me crawling out, or it was actually the shadow crawling out of me. Okay, and this was like, I don't know how long I was in for, because I don't know, like the reference point was about 7 hours throughout the night. Like you didn't sleep, right? You can't sleep. Like, even though I was like, just let me go to fucking bed. And I was like, no, like you're not going to bed. You're going to deal with this and look at it. So finally I surrendered, and all I kept hearing was, you need to let go. And then this one, we were in ceremony, right? So I was with the tribe in Brazil that came up from Brazil, and they are the guardians of the Amazon, the Yawana tribe. And their chief led the ceremony, and his son led the ayahuasca like ceremony part. And the musical aspect was him and his sisters and potentially his wife. I'm not sure of the dynamics of the whole family. The most rooted and grounded energy you will ever find in music. Like, and I knew all the songs, and I don't know the songs consciously, but then I remembered past lives that I'd been in this tribe and I used to sing this, like, and I was there. So all I remember coming out of this was, you need to go dance. And I was like, I can barely even fucking get up off of this mat. You need to go dance. So obviously I followed, because all of a sudden this rhythm and beat came into play, and I was like, oh my God, like this is this is it. I stood for a second, because trying to get my grounding, right? Because I'm like, I'm in a physical body still, but I'm not in a fucking physical body. And then I just started to move. And then I moved and I moved. And for probably the next 5 hours, I just danced. I took another ceremonial like hit, we'll say, off of the doses, because my body was like, you need to do this, because I needed to go see if there was still more. darkness there, but I had let it all go. And it was so cool to be in that. And that's like, I don't know how to verbalize it all yet. Like I did my podcast interview this week on it, like my solo episode that drops tomorrow, with what I could remember. But I was like, there's so much still here. Like there was part of me that I was dancing and I was like, all these guys want me. And I was like, in this fucking energy. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm having this conversation with myself in real time going, are you kidding me? Like, what the fuck is happening over here? Like, you know, and I'm just like, but watching the shadow move through me at the same time of this, like, you're the be all end all, and like, look at you, and judgment, and like, you're this fucking raging bitch. And I just kept remember saying all this to myself, and I went, a lot of this is true, like in some of the ways I showed up in life and in the world. And even though now, like, we could be in this integration together and I would never judge you, like, I just wouldn't. Like, I get your path, I understand, but at the root of me is this like darkness and the shadow. So I understood, like, the weekend before when the Bree elder said to me, you need to forgive the shadow in you. And I went, yeah, I get, like, I get that. Surface level, I get it. And then I go into this experience, I was like, oh my God, that's what he fucking meant. Right? Because like at that time it was thundering. The second he said that to me, it was like the sky fucking opened up in this thunderstorm. And I was like that was what was rooted. So me being naive, like I was so naive in this experience, guys. Like I literally was this little kid in the room. I was the only one there that had never done this before. The only one. So the elder son literally blessed me and greeted me as in this experience. And now I get and understand we've had a past life together. We actually did this work together in that past life. He's been in this tribe for multiple lifetimes, like in this, rooted in this. And I got that yesterday after I came home and I went, shit. And he saw me. And everyone after the ceremony was like, he spoke right to you. He saw you. He did a blessing. Like, that is unheard of. And I was like, I'm so naive. Like, I'm like, I don't even have a reference point of what this actually is and how this actually feels. Like, no, like totally naive, right? And I got the first, after the tribe, I was called forward first to be honored in this experience. So this little kid in a candy store having no idea what to fucking do, right? And everyone, like, there was one point he gave me the medicine and then he was pouring another thing and I didn't know that the rest of the line was coming, and then he was like, you can't have any more, and everyone started laughing behind me because I don't know what I'm doing, right? I have no idea what this is about. And it was just like such a cool experience to be in and a part of. But I really recognize and realize the root of the shadow, Tonya, that's in us. And you're like, yeah, you can go in and do the work, but can you go deep enough is my question for you. Can you go deep enough? Can you drop in and actually go into recognizing the depth? Because we do the work. We all do the work. Like we've been down the dark nights of the soul for, you know, like 8 weeks. In March, April, I was fucking out, like gone in more shadow work. And Brooke travels there consistently all the time too. Like I know we all do the work, but are we getting to the actual root? You know, and not that you're surface leveling anything. That's not what I'm saying to you. But I'm asking you the question. And the movement of this is, can we go into that and really lean in and go into the purity of that and like experience it? And, you know, during this whole entire thing, I was like, I'm never fucking doing this again. All these people were like, this is so fucking beautiful. And I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? Like, I was like, because I didn't do any research. I didn't ask any, I had no clue, the naivety in me. And then I come out and I was like, I get why they say it's beautiful. I get and understand this. And will I be going back? Yes. I'm pretty sure I'm signed up already for like a 2-day experience to go fucking way out at the end of July. And I'm like, I'm just going to keep following the call because I know I'm being led this way and moved through this way. And it's just like, yeah, just dynamic. So that's kind of where I wanted to move us through today and pass the baton over to Brooke.
I'm so excited. You're going to lead us. That's why we haven't done it yet, because you're leading the way. I mean, I've done acid, I've done mushrooms. I understand like the capacity of the healing. Mm-hmm. It also challenges me to not need any drugs, to be able to put myself in them crazy states and prove that we have access to those parts of us. Yep. But then again, at the same time, there's reasons for technology. There, you know what I'm saying? bust past through this shit and not have to do all these extra steps if you don't have to. But I'm so excited, and I love that. And I just like pictured you the whole I could just picture it.
Like a little girl, right?
Like
Like a little girl. Like that's how I felt in this experience. A little girl. I was a little girl in this room full of these people. And then you saw me come to life, like in the ceremony part where I was singing, and I knew all the songs, right? So I'm in this vibe, and the connection I had, and just, oh man, there's so much to unpack here. But like yeah. But just, Tonya, I get you. Like I get in my mind, I'm over this, I'm through it, and it was like, no, you're not. Yo, bitch, just fucking sit right down and get your ass in this. And I was like, I don't want to. I don't want. Why the hell am I here? Can I just like offer it up to get it out of my body? And it wouldn't come out, right? None of it would come out. It was staying in. And I was like, fucking bastard. You know? Like, yeah.
I can only imagine. No, and I know, and I've heard people have experiences like that, which I think is why Aya is so potent, because it takes you where you need to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you don't have a choice.
No.
It gives you what you need.
You go.
Which is beautiful. And it takes you through those experiences, which is why I have wanted to do it for so long. Like ever since I heard about it several years ago. And I've never done anything. I've never done mushrooms. I've never even smoked weed. Like I've never done anything. Nothing. I drank, and my addiction was like my eating disorder and drinking and opiates, but I never did like any of the psychedelics, right?
Yeah.
So and part of me is like, gosh, I would, and even now, as I sit here, I'm like, that would be so cool. I would love to do that, because I can think of all the things that would come up for me. And even now, as I sit here, my spirit guidance is sitting here telling me, you don't need it.
Yeah.
You don't need to go that route.
Yeah.
They're like, it's your capacity to do this is already there.
Yeah.
And like, just to be able to, like, just to pull that out and to do it. It's just like an acknowledging and a surrendering.
Yeah.
Really what it is. And that's the whole thing, is just getting to that place of surrender. Realizing that it's not me, Tonya, the avatar, that's doing this thing. It's my inner beingness, my connectedness to the divine, my soul, you know, the nature of who we are, you know. But I get so wrapped up sometimes in my own mind thinking that I have to do. And Spirit's like, you don't have to do, you just have to be. Just be and surrender and recognize that this is just going to, like, it'll just happen. You just have to let it go. But you're hanging on somewhere. So it's a matter of getting to that place of surrender.
It's a matter of when Colleen's ready to take us all through it. That's about
right.
Oh my
because
gosh. Well, I'm rooted in it. Like, this is part of who I am. So it's like exploring this avenue in my life now. Like, wow. But it's been so cool. I know I want to pass the baton over to Brooke, but like everything. So the third dose brought out all a different edge to me, and like my whole album that I'm supposed to record this year, like an album. I'm supposed to record an album. I got the songs, I got the graphics of it, like, and the instruments I'm supposed to use, and how I'm supposed to do like a voiceover, and the chanting's one, but then there's this other voice that comes in, like just the whole thing dropped in the third dose, and I went, okay, I'm a musician apparently. I'm a poet as well. I'm supposed to own these things, and I'm like, okay, I hear you. But yeah, Brooke, please take it away and and move us through this.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. I'm just like, the unfolding is just going to be so crazy, so fast, so rapid, and talk about perfect timing. So a little from last week, being able to talk through the know-it-all bullshit, you know, that I was dealing with. It's so funny. Even my husband had said to me a couple days ago, "Oh, so you know it all." Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we do.
But where I get to step into then is starting to really recognize how smart other people are, how much other people know. Like, honoring and loving that in other people is going to open that up for me, right? Instead of being the victim of it, I get to be the victor. Okay, I'll stop there with that. But anyway, so this came to me right before we hopped on, and I work with birthrights, right? Mm-hmm. And so the first birthright, like this came to me, is the birthright to exist. And so this is from my master's schooling, and this birthright is the right to be here, okay? And so I'm going to talk about some of that stuff just so you guys get the yumminess of that too. But what came up for me was I was in a session, and it was based on, I am so sick of struggle. I'm so sick of suffering. And this was quite a few years ago. And the lady had been like, okay, well, let's go back. How long have you really, really felt this? And I was like, whoa, I was born into it.
Yeah, the trauma birth.
So it's just like, so then in that moment, I got to go back to my birth, right?
Yeah.
And so I, watching myself be born, I'm like, there, all of my family's around, my uncles come from frickin' ride or die farm family, ego like crazy, but love just as hard, right? So much love. And you fight for what you love type of love, right? And that's my issue of my birthright to love and be loved. But anyways, so I was like, oh my God, you know, I come out and I'm just like, yeah, oh, okay, I'm gonna struggle. I'm gonna suffer. Hi guys, I'm here. And then the lady's like, well, would those people around you want Brooke to suffer? Well, of course not. Of course not. But in the birthright that to exist is from pre-birth to 2 months, okay? And especially if somebody's a star seed or something like that, like this is critical, because when we know this, we can go right back to this point in ourselves and shift and change it. So I was able to, you know, really recognize the pride, the heart, the love, the energy, the family. Like, what made us was we could struggle and we could suffer and we could survive.
Yeah.
But then that's embedded. And so if you're not struggling, if you're not suffering, then you're going to die, is literally what the brain says, you know, and then the cells go all whacked out and the limbic system kicks in, the emotions just screw you right over, right? And so what is so fun about that is, you know, really taking the blame off of us for, or even the responsibility for having the suffer, for being in the struggle, taking that responsibility away, so then we can ditch the shame, ditch the guilt, but then rise above and be like, okay, well, I might not be responsible for it, but it is in my fractal lines, it's in my genes, it's embedded in me, and this is what we've been called to do here on this earth. And so but at the same time, I would not be who I am if it wasn't for that, right?
Yeah.
And I would never want to take that away from myself either. But some of the untruths that, okay, so pre-birth to 2 months old. I do have some notes, Colleen.
Dude, you do you, man. You do you.
Are you judging me?
like you own it, girl. You have no.
I love you.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so in utero, we're still getting the finishing touches up. We're just born. We're just learning to focus our eyes and learning to regulate our own breathing and metabolism that's coming from the parent and the caregiver. And if you, once you do this type of work, you can instantly forgive your parents for everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, that wasn't their fault by any means, but especially the constriction of breath. So if our breath is constricted, then that puts us into a certain state, a nervous system state that is instantly fight, flight, or freeze. So we just naturally go to that state due to the constricted breathing. And that begins in utero due to your parents' constricted breathing. So even though it's not innate in us, it is something that we get to dismantle, right? Because it's not who we are, but it has become this human vehicle part of us, right? And so some of the untruths are, I don't have the right to exist. I don't have the right to be here. I'm a mistake. My existence is threatening my survival. I mean, oh my God, some of these things. But there's no room for me. I don't belong. I don't fit in. I'm an outsider. I don't have a place. I'm not wanted. I'm worthless. I'm invisible. I'm not welcomed. I don't deserve to be here. I'm not enough. I can't trust life. Like, that's pretty much every single human.
Okay, and for those who don't acknowledge that, they're lying to themselves. Literally, that is every single person. Yeah. That is like the crux of the deep wound that we all have as humanity. And it shows up everywhere. Everywhere. Just all you gotta do is look outside and observe somebody's behavior and watch how they respond and react to the world around them if they are not conscious, and you will see that wound. 100%. That wound is driving their life.
Yeah.
Well, and it also gives us the opportunity to just let them be and not judge them and just be like,
because it's everybody. I mean, why are we judging them? It's not their fault. We all have
But people, definitely pride themselves on all of these things. This is like I just had mentioned, I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't have these thoughts and these beliefs and these feelings. But now what is so fun is timeline work. We can literally go into ourselves, and shift and change all of that. So some of the behaviors for this, just like for us or anybody listening, shrinking and hiding in groups, proving specialness, over relying on intellect, over spiritualizing, so spiritual bypassing, right? Or being too in your head and not in your body. And feeling lonely no matter what, which I really feel is part of the spiritual process. But some revised beliefs are, one, it's my birthright to exist. I have a right to be here. I am home. Now that one is a little like bullshit, but you know, I gotta accept this. This earth is my home, damn it.
Everywhere
it's your home right now.
You are. How about
that?
I
know.
Wherever you are on the earth plane or in the ethers or wherever.
Right. But just that it's not, it's the feeling. It's the feeling of being, an outsider or something like that. But my body is my ally. And so this is big for me because this is part of my life's work, is to be able to bring these physical bodies to the next level physically, shifting and changing this DNA so we can expand and excel and ascend transcend with these physical bodies.
Right.
So I think that is super fun. And people can't wait to know me and love me.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
You know, if we all thought that, like we pride ourselves on staying hidden or humble or something like that, and just knowing the threat that comes from not, if just like in the beginning when we started, if we didn't have shame, then who would we be? If we felt worthy, who would we be? We wouldn't be ourselves, right? When it comes to what's in our cells. And like Colleen, like you just hit the nail on the head with the how much are you actually working this? And we all know it's multiple layers and multiple layers, and it's also, I would never want to give it up, because then what would I do every single day? You know? So it's very interesting. And I know, Tonya, you had posted something the other day that was like, if you could manifest something right now, what would it be? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to manifest anything. Everything I'm doing is manifesting. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Like it's more. And then you called in Archangel Uriel, and it's literally the one step, the one foot in front of the other type of energy that I'm finding I'm winning in.
Awesome.
I love that too, and I'm not to interrupt you, but I want people to understand there's so much of a I believe, and like part with the work you do and the work Colleen does, a lot of what I have been doing this year, I've been really noticing that Spirit's been calling me to kind of tweak some things, because there's so much that was brought into the frequency and awareness when it came to manifestation and co-creation of your reality and all these things. But people, like everything, took like the polarity differences to it, like where some people are like, oh, it's all about what can I get, right? So by asking that question, I want people to understand, okay, but where are you in the moment? If you're so forward thinking out there, you're not thinking, you're not present. And it's all about being present, because the work you do is now in the moment. It's not in 3 weeks from now. It's right now. Yeah. Like every single breath you take is that moment of what can I do now? Where am I at now? What do I have now that I can, whether it's something I need to transmute or whatever, but realize that your happiness, everything you need is already in the present moment.
Yeah.